It is the OB Recruiting Insider. The week after Texas beats OU, gets to 4-2, and feels like they're getting a little bit of momentum. Did they get a little recruiting momentum? That's what we're going to find out. There's your recruiting insider, Jason Sukamel, with us as always. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group, John and the crew sponsoring the Recruiting Insider. We'll tell you more about them as we go along. Jason, last week you talked about the setup for this game and maybe how for you it was maybe even more important than some Texas OU games have been to you in the past. So let's talk about how it plays out and then how some of the recruits reacted. Who'd you get a chance to talk to this week to find out what they thought?
Yeah, I touched base with a few of the guys that were there, like Samari Matthews, Smoke Matthews, Jaquan Snell, Caden McCarty, a couple others. But, this game, Chad, like I've covered recruiting and I've covered this game long enough, back when Oklahoma would kick the crap out of Texas when Matt Brown was there a few years, right? And it never really impacted recruiting because recruiting was on a different timeline back then than it is now. I mean, now, like, these 2027 guys, man, Jaquan Snell, we'll talk about him in a minute, but he's going to commit in December probably or January. So Kavion Bryant, the quarterback, is going to commit early November. So these timelines are speeding up. I think this game had probably more impact than it has previously for a few different reasons. I think just recruiting timelines have changed. It used to be you play that game and then guys don't even start getting recruited until well after that game. Well, now you've been recruiting these guys for a while. They're taking all these visits. They're going to different campuses, different games, obviously the Red River rivalry. But I said it last week. Texas needed to establish some momentum, especially with that 2027 class. Texas A&M has it. They've got a lot of it. Texas Tech has it, weirdly enough. We can discuss how that's happening. But Texas really didn't have much juice with that 2027 group. And had they lost that game and fallen to 3-3, well, then your momentum's even stalling out even more. So big win for Texas. Everybody I talked to, we can go through some of them here in a bit, but everybody I talked to said, hey, man, that was an amazing environment. They all loved the experience. They all said, I can see myself playing in that game. The guys told me I could picture myself, that they pictured themselves playing in that game and in that type of environment. So I think it was a productive weekend for Texas in recruiting. Still a lot of work to do, but that was a big necessary step taken forward by the Longhorns in winning that game.
And, of course, we always tell you to check out Jason's 321 article at orangebloods.com. Check all of it out at orangebloods.com, but specifically each week you can get a lot of great recruiting stuff in that 321 article. There's your QR code. Jason, as I was reading through some stuff, I was trying to put myself in the mindset of not just a recruit, but a defensive recruit. We're going to talk about Jaquan Snell and some other guys that are the defensive side of the ball, and I'm thinking, okay, you watch 23-6, you watch that Texas defense, you get to see everything that is positive for the Burn Orange side of that great rivalry game. Burn Orange side stays packed, sings the eyes at the end. Arch fires the cannon. That other end emptied out. Sark's pointing to his guys. Look, they're leaving. And, all of that stuff. And I was trying to put myself in the place of a Jaquan Snell from Waxahachie, Texas, by the way, or anybody else that was a defensive stud. That's about as good a show as Sark and PK could hope to bring them.
Yeah, and in talking to Snell in particular, like he talked about that. He goes, man, I knew it was going to be a defensive game and a defensive stand down. He goes, those dudes brought it and they showed up. He's watching that game probably. He's seen Michael Taft fly around. He's seen Jelani McDonald almost make plays, make a huge play. Manny Muhammad, of course, making big plays. So, Snell really liked what he saw. It was funny. I said, well, because he's looking at Texas and Oklahoma are both heavily involved there. A&M's very heavily involved. I said, hey, who are you rooting for? And Jaquan's awesome. He's a really smart kid too, right? Very respectful, very polite, very intelligent. He's like, well, I was just rooting for both defenses. I wasn't rooting for either team. I go, you know what? I knew you'd have a smart answer, Jaquan.
He's rooting for 6-3, huh? That was.
But he did say that he loved the experience and loved what he saw for the defenses, from the defense. Excuse me. I did ask him. I said, hey, is that, when you're watching that game? I said, as a recruit, is that something like, you see yourself could potentially be playing in? And his quote was, he said for sure. He said with it being so crowded, to be such a crazy and fun moment to play in front of a crowd like that, it'd be something I would want to be a part of. So, but Jaquan's smart. Like he said, I knew going in it was going to be a defensive game, and he mentioned Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill and Michael Taft and Jelani. He mentioned McDonald. He goes, those dudes showed why they're who they are, why that Texas defense is so good. He's told me he'll be back for the Texas game against Texas A&M. He'll be in Austin. He was at the UTEP game, I believe it was. So he's already been to one Texas home game. Okay. He might try to come back for either Vanderbilt or Arkansas. So, Texas is chipping away there. He did visit A&M 2 weeks ago. To help me, Chad, I'm trying to think who they played.
Would have been Mississippi State for A&M?
Yeah, I think that's right. So it wasn't Florida. It would have been Mississippi State. And that trip really moved the needle too. So I think it's shaping up to be an A&M Texas battle. There was a lot of buzz on A&M coming out of that visit for the Mississippi State game. Now Texas is trying to kind of punch back. And I think they did a good job with that Red River rivalry game. Just got to keep chipping away on Jaquan Snell.
It's interesting you mentioned that other visit, Jason, because he got a good defensive show there too. That was the blackout night at Kyle Field, the black uniforms, but it was a very clunky defensive style. It was A&M was down like 6-3 at the half.
Yeah.
But then the offense started clicking in the second half, and I think 31-9 was the final, something like that. The A&M controlled it, and they kept that third down thing going. They are not giving up much third downs right now. So Jaquan got to see a pretty good defensive show both ways there. But you also mentioned that OU is part of his, thought process as well. So are both of the Longhorns rivals on his list as well?
Yeah, they are. He just dropped a top 10. Actually, he did it on Saturday, I think, right before on his way to the game or right before he left for the game. But
busy. Yeah, and drop my top 10, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll go watch some football. So, and I'm trying to think Ohio State. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but actually, I think I do have it in front of me. But the bottom line is, I think I've always kind of heard or been told, hey, this one, okay, just real quick: Alabama, LSU, Miami, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech. Okay. I've always been told he's probably a guy that's more likely to stay closer to home. So I've kind of had Texas A&M, and Oklahoma kind of circled in this one. I want to say this, though, Chad. He told me he's going to go visit Texas Tech in a couple weeks for one of their games. And he's looking to decide December and January. Hey, I'm not discounting Texas Tech for anybody at this point, right? Yeah. With some of the tricks they've been pulling to land some of these elite players. Jaquan Snell is the type of guy that's good enough. He'll go up there and visit, and they'll be like, hey, dude, we're going to blow you away with a crazy NIL offer. And suddenly Texas Tech's a legitimate threat in this one. I think ultimately it'll be Texas A&M or Texas, but I'm not completely discounting Texas Tech with the way they've been recruiting 2027 guys here of late.
Yeah. And if it matters, if the season on the field does matter, Tech is still undefeated. Yeah. They're 6-0. They're going to Arizona State this week. What a party game that is. But it's do they keep their momentum going as well? Recruits are going to be paying attention to all of it because, as we've pointed out on the Recruiting Insider many times, they really do seem to be following things even closer than they used to. All the little details matter to a lot of these recruits. So
I'm looking at my notes real quick. He's actually going to Ohio State November 1st. Jaquan Snell is when they host a Penn State team that doesn't have a head coach. And then he's going to Tech the following weekend, November 8th, when they play BYU, which should be a pretty good atmosphere in that game. So I really like Jaquan, man. I've covered him a few times, and he's from that town of Waxahachie, is Chad's so fond of, and just an awesome, awesome kid. So really cool kid to cover.
And by the way, without James Franklin's story aside, he did pick what were supposed to be two pretty darn good games: Ohio State, Penn State, and then Tech and BYU were both undefeated as we're talking here. Yeah. So who knows where they are later?
Texas A&M. I mean,
that's right, exactly. And he's thinking about coming back
for you last week. I mean, Jaquan. Like I said, he's a smart kid, dude. He knows what he's doing, man.
Jaquan is not going to average football games. He wants to go to the big dogs. All right, so you got a chance to catch up with him. Give us a sense of some other guys that you caught up with that were there in Dallas.
Well, there were a lot of Texas commits, and I was not able to get in touch with. I was trying to get in touch with Derek Cooper. Kind of been missing there. Derek, he's kind of gone, I don't say into a hole, but he's not doing as many interviews and things. He's kind of tightened things up. But I think it's a good sign. He was at the game. I know he was at the game. So
that's big.
Yeah, I actually texted with his mom and
yeah.
Went to the game. I think he had a great experience. I mean, the fact that he went to that game on his own dime a few weeks after being in Austin on an official visit, I think that's a really good sign for Texas. Samari Matthews, the cornerback commitment out of North Carolina, he was there. He was like, man, great game, great environment. I think his quote, let me pull it up. He said, great game. Texas played true Texas football on both sides of the ball. The atmosphere was electric, and I can't wait to wear that burnt orange. So Samari Matthews was there. Dylan Berryman was going. John Turntine was there. James Johnson, Cohen Brown, another Waxahachie Texas commit was there.
Yeah.
Dia Bell was there. So, Dia's locked in. So it was a big turnout. Honestly, there's a bigger turnout of probably committed guys than there were like uncommitted targets. But, anytime you get those out-of-state dudes to show up for a game like that, that shows you how positive they're feeling about Texas.
We will talk more about the guys that were in Dallas and what they thought of Texas OU after I tell you a little bit about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John and his group are the sponsor here. Let's tell you a little bit about them. John is, of course, a proud Texas Ex's life member. We told you he and his wife and 6 siblings, all UT grads. Hey, John was in the Cotton Bowl on Saturday. He loved watching the Texas victory. He had predicted that, by the way. He was one of those that was on the positive side for Texas. So to celebrate Texas beating OU so handily, he wants to offer all OB Live fans the opportunity to schedule that free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you handily maximize your wealth. See what he did there? Minimize your taxes and ensure your legacy. Call him at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. All right, shout out to John and his crew. Jason, in terms of, you were just mentioning some of these defensive guys, but you mentioned a lot of positions there because you mentioned Turntine and some others. You mentioned Dia Bell at quarterback. That Texas performance would give me something to watch no matter who I was recruiting wise. Like we talked about a defensive guy to start, but go through it in your mind. For Matthews, what a game to watch if you're a defensive back, right? Mm-hmm. You watched Manny Muhammad have 2 interceptions. We all know Jelani McDonald should have had a pick 6. Right. Didn't happen for him, but a great read on that play. He just didn't finish it. But we know what that could have been. So a good game for him to watch. Turntine watched an offensive line stand up a little bit that hadn't. Dia Bell watched Arch get to have his moment and fire a cannon and put fist in the air and the slide and the wave to the fan. Like there's all those little things that happen really at all positions for Texas. It's a pretty good showcase for these recruits.
And I tell you, the one that maybe was the biggest was Derek Cooper. You got that running game going, okay, a little bit with Trey Wisner, but it also weirdly it wasn't like Texas had 5 backs go out there, including a bunch of true freshmen, where he's going to be like worried about competition, right? He said, okay, Trey Wisner and not a whole lot else. And thank goodness the offensive line actually blocked pretty well in the run game, because if they would have gone out there and not blocked well in the run game,
right,
Derek Cooper might have been thinking, whoa, this is the guys that are going to be blocking for me. This is who I want to be running behind. So, I think that was, again, I think getting Derek Cooper there, I think everything kind of unfolded perfectly for him. You mentioned Dia Bell, got to watch Arch kind of do his thing, and Turntine in the offensive line, Cohen Brown at receiver. So, I mentioned Samari. I mean, Samari's probably watching Manny Muhammad making those 2 interceptions and thinking, hold on, that dude's going to be going pro. I can slide right in there and compete for that spot. So, again, I think it was just positive developments all over the place. A couple other guys that were there. I can talk about Caden McCarty. He's a 2027 edge out of I always get this right, Cy Falls. Cy Falls in the Houston area. So
keep the size straight. That is tough to do.
I never do, but that's why I had to double check. But he was there, and again, said it was a great visit for him. He said, the defense, what I saw from that defense holding Oklahoma to 2 field goals was amazing. That's why Texas win. And said he was impressed. His family was impressed. He said, the other thing he said, he goes, I was really impressed by the Texas edge defenders, that group of guys, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Lance Jackson. He goes, I could definitely see myself coming off the edge like they do. So similar type deal. He said, hey, I can envision myself playing in that game. But he's another guy. I mentioned Jaquan Snell wanting to decide in December or January. Caden McCarty's a 2027 guy. He's going to decide, Chad, on December 8th. He's already got a commitment date picked out. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, I asked him, is there any like significance to that? Is there like someone's birthday or something? He goes, no, it's just my season will probably be done. So I'm going to go ahead and commit on December 8th. So another guy, like very personable, very strong academically. He's got like about 5 schools. It's all the in-state schools that he's looking at. So Texas A&M, Baylor, Houston, Texas Tech. He's going to pick from one of those 5 on December 8th. I think Texas put itself in a pretty good position coming out of that game this weekend. He's going to try to get back down for another home game in Austin. But, we're about – I mean, it's crazy. December 8th. So what are we – October? Less than 2 months away from him making a decision already. So
that's wild. Okay, Jason, let me make sure I'm clear with what you're saying here. So with like guys like Snell and McCarty, they're both 27 guys, right? 2027 guys. So you're telling me they may make decisions a full year before their signing day?
Yeah, a year and before they take any official visits, which is kind of rare, kind of unique. I don't know if that's going to be a pattern we're going to see more and more of, but it's not something we usually see that guys take. Normally now guys take their official visits in April, May, June, and then they commit in July or maybe even August. But we're talking 2 guys who want to commit after their junior seasons and before recruiting really heats up with the visit season.
Talk about getting it out of the way. Like we always talk about the summer version, which I totally understand. Do something in July. You're about to start your senior year of high school before I get into practice, right? Before I get into 2-a-days and the Texas Heat or whatever, wherever state I'm in, before I get to all that, let me just get this out of the way, clear my brain. But you're talking about 6 months earlier than that. Like that is really getting something off your plate there.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. It's interesting to do it before you take official visits. That's what kids usually look forward to. Is like, oh my gosh, I want to take these visits and get pampered and get spoiled and have good meals and nice hotels. And who knows? I mean, they could still commit and take other visits. That's always a possibility. But yeah, both these dudes want to do it very early. And I thought it was interesting on Jaquan Snell. I did ask him. I said, well, he said, try to decide in December or January. I said, okay. I said, that's interesting before your officials. And he goes, yeah. And I said, what's the reasoning? Is there any particular reason? And he said, I quote, he goes, I kind of know certain schools catch your eye. And once I make a decision, I just go for it. I kind of know. So I don't know if that means he kind of knows where already he might go. If he does, that probably favors Texas A&M based on some of the recent buzz, but Texas will get Jaquan back in Austin at least one more time. So we'll see. But I just thought that was an interesting comment. He said, I kind of know, which I took as I kind of know where I'm going already. So
yeah, it's a good nebulous phrase to use too. I kind of know. Wait, you know, or positive, kind of? Well, no, kind of. I kind of know.
My daughter last night was like doing math. Like, I think that's kind of right. I'm like, no, it's not. Math is either right or it's wrong. There's no in between. And she goes, okay, off to like ChatGPT I go to do my math homework. I'm like, no, you're not learning anything if you're doing AI to do your homework for you.
What are we doing?
Yeah, my math is kind of right. I'm like, no, math is either right or it's wrong. There's no in between.
That is interesting. So we'll keep the eyes and ears peeled for some 2027 decisions late this year. Obviously, the 2026 group is going to sign coming up in December, right? Just a few days after the Texas A&M game, right? Just like last year, Jason, December 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I should know that. Well, it's a 3-day window, but I think it's December 3rd, 4th, 5th, I believe.
Yeah, last year it was like 4 or 5 days after the game, something like that. So it'll be in that same kind of time frame. All right, remember, we got Texas and Kentucky coming up this week. It is a 6 o'clock kick. Come watch it with us at TCH Social Austin. We're going to be at 183 and Anderson Mill. Once again, the drink specials and food specials are back. They've locked them in for these last couple weeks. $2 drafts, $3 jellyfish, $4 Fanatic cocktail, $12 for those 8 wings. That big video wall fired up. And if I'm not mistaken, this guy might be showing up might be joining.
Yeah, I'm gonna get those wings this time. I haven't tried their wings yet.
Everybody that's had them loves them. People keep talking about that salmon. They know I'm not faking them out there. And that pasta dish I had last week, Jason, was excellent.
Yeah, I might have to try that one day too.
Yeah, it was really good. Not sure which way I'm going this week. Have to wait till I get there. But I am having a jellyfish. It worked. Texas beat OU when I drank the jellyfish. I can't go away from that for you Texas fans to get them through this this stretch of you're supposed to win them kind of games. That comes up Saturday evening at 6. Shout out again to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Let me tell you a little bit more about John. We've told you John's up there in the Dallas area. And of course, he was at the game, as I mentioned, but he's a part of the Collin County chapter of the Texas X's. They had the watch party last week. They'll do it again this week at Dirty Birds in Plano. Go watch Texas and Kentucky with them. Kickoff at 6, of course. John's predicting 37-13 Texas. That would be a nice multiple score win. John was so excited to see those rave reviews from the recruits that we're talking about today after the victory over OU. He was reading the 321 article at orangebloods.com, just like the rest of you should be doing. John also wants to remind all of the OB Live folks that October is National Financial Planning Month. So if you want to meet with a CFP to initiate a financial planning process or just get a second opinion on your existing financial plan, John is offering that free 90-minute private consultation to review and analyze your financial picture to help you evaluate and identify the opportunities to develop and secure your own successful financial future. Check out that free 90-minute consultation by calling 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. All right, Jason, we've covered a lot of names that were there in Dallas. Anybody that we missed that was checking out Red River last week?
Well, one guy, he wasn't at the game. Sorry. Doing like 3 things at once, but I thought it was interesting. I caught up with CJ Whaley. Okay. CJ Whaley, an athlete out of Atlanta, Texas. Mm-hmm. His dad is none other than Chris Whaley.
Oh man, I saw this in your article, Jason. It made me feel so old. Oh my Lord.
Me too, Chad. I went and covered his commitment. Oh. I drove to Madisonville, Texas to cover his commitment. And Chris comes in as a running back and ends up being a defensive tackle. Well, CJ is interesting because Texas is recruiting, and they offered him. He came in for the UTEP game, and they offered him on that visit. And I said, well, what position are they recruiting as? Because he's kind of listed as an athlete. He said, this is so interesting to me, Chad. He said, defensive end and wide receiver.
Whoa.
Like, how often do you hear that combination, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, okay. He's 6'4", like, probably right around 200. So, we'll see where his frame goes, but pretty open, he said. But he did say Texas, he goes, man, he said, I'm trying to find, Texas is at the top, knowing my dad has a legacy there. I just want to keep that legacy going. So meaning Texas, is really up there for me. And he mentioned A&M and LSU, other schools he's looking at closely, and he's going to Ohio State, I think, in November to watch an Ohio State game. So, he's a 2028 guy, so a long way to go. But yeah, it was kind of a full circle moment. And like I told CJ, I was like, dude, I've been doing this a long time. And I said, I was at your dad's. I covered his commitment to Texas. That was crazy, man. So yeah, Texas is in a pretty good spot there. So I'm trying to find, Julian Caldwell. Oh, Jerry Outhouse is a guy out of North Crowley. He's a defensive back. John Turntine's teammate. He was at the game. He's a guy that Texas has offered. I didn't write about him in my 321. I'll have some stuff on him later in the week, but it's same deal, man. Enjoyed the visit, enjoyed the atmosphere, and just the way the Texas defense played. Texas is a pretty strong player there too. Pretty open, but he's another guy that enjoyed the experience at the
game. Now, Jason, somewhere along the line, you mentioned Kavian Bryant. Was he at the game?
He was. And I've reached out to Kavian. I reached out to his mom. I have reached out to his dad. I'm having a heck of a time getting my foot in the door on that one. So he was at the game. He's supposed to announce November 1. And I've said it for a couple months, Chad. My money's on Texas Tech. I think they're going to do with him what they did with Felix Ojo and some of these other guys. I think they're going to make him an offer that he just can't refuse.
And Kavian is 26 or 27?
27.
He is 27 as well. Okay.
So, yeah, another guy that's committing very
making
early.
The decision that early. And then we'll just have to see in this day and age, Jason, where to commit that early, whoever the school is is there any, not that you would try to lock the kid down because you can't, because it's not signing day, but with all the NIL possibilities, is this something where, you know, our coaches saying to recruits nowadays, look, if you're going this early, like, we got to know? Or, you know,
Well,
how do if I'm a coach, how do I look at somebody that's committing that far ahead of time?
in quarterbacks, a little bit different. I mean, those guys usually do commit early. Frankly, him committing in the fall is probably later than a lot of quarterbacks. Usually
Yeah,
they
that's
commit
true.
in the summer. So, but, you know, this is interesting because Ketch and I were talking about this, and there's been some discussion on Orange Bloods on our message board. And someone asked me, does Texas need to adjust its recruiting philosophy and maybe move things up a little bit more? You know, Sark's always said, like, hey, dude, I don't worry about recruiting in whatever, May or June. Well, you kind of need to start because A&M is doing a really good job locking these guys in early. Texas Tech is doing a good job locking guys in early. You got to adjust or you're going to fall behind. And frankly, if I'm being honest, Texas is behind in 2027. I mean, A&M is trending really well with a lot of the elite players. So, you know, I think Texas has to start having these NIL conversations a lot earlier, kind of letting these players know, hey, you know, we're going to be here. Here's what we're going to present to you. Here's what we're able to do for you. Because it's just a dangerous game if you're thinking, hey, we're not going to do that. We'll do it late. We'll try to flip guys. Well, that's okay. You know, you'll be able to flip some guys, but I think you'd rather be in front of it than having to play catch up and trying to flip guys late. And that's a little bit of a slippery slope you're messing with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we'll keep an eye there on Kavian Bryant coming up. Some 27 decisions coming up here in late 2025. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. Thanks, of course, to Jason for being with us every week on the Recruiting Insider. I am Chad Hastings, even though my name said Alex Dunlap for like 90% of the show. I just noticed it and changed it.
I didn't even notice. How did I not notice?
I was Alex Dunlap for most of the show. I feel bad for anyone who saw that and I'm like, wait, I thought Alex Dunlap knew stuff about football. Who the hell is this guy? Sorry, Alex.
How did neither one of us notice that?
I didn't mean to ruin your rep. I usually notice the little details like that, but I didn't notice it till the very end. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group, John and the crew, and everything they do for us. Thanks to them. Again, 972-707-4900 or longhornwealth.net. Until next week, it will be Mississippi State week next week for Texas. Another one of those handle your business kind of games. We don't have a kick time for that one yet. I believe it's mid-afternoon or later, but I think they're
2:30 or 3, I think is what they're saying. They've narrowed it down in that little kind of afternoon. It's going to be like 2:30.
Oh, they have done the mid-afternoon. Okay, there you go. So it's going to be that. That's actually good news because nighttime with those cowbells could get a little bit crazier. I'd want that to be as early as I can for Sark. Honestly, I'd beg my way to an 11 a.m. kick if I could do it for Sark. I'd want to.
That's what I was hoping for. I'll be watching.
Yeah, sleepy cowbells would have been a better version. At least they don't get the nighttime version. That place is wild when they get going. So maybe the afternoon version will be better for Texas. All right, we'll be back next week talking about the latest in recruiting. Thank you guys for all your support. It is the Recruiting Insider. We debut every Wednesday at 10 a.m. right here on Orange Bloods Live. Take care. See you. All right, Tyler, starting back up here to record these. John got his stuff in a little late, so we'll go back and place them in. I'll go back and get the time for you once I close up here. But this will be the first read coming in 3, 2, 1.